Right, wonderful people. I think it is very, very important that we try and look at boxing and unboxing. And this is a very important chapter that we need to look at because in most of the time we box and unbox things unknowingly so, or sometimes we do these things without even understanding what we are doing. So I said to myself, okay, Papa Fanzo, try to make a lecture where you try to explain boxing and unboxing using a coding tutorial. So what are we going to deal with here? So we are going to compare structs, which are value types, with the classes, which are reference types. Because in most of the time we box and unbox value types and reference types, and we need to know and understand exactly how this needs to be employed and why things are the way in which they are. So we say that boxing is the act of converting a value type, very, very important. Boxing is the act of converting a value type into a system.object type or to an interface type that is implemented by the value type. Very important. So in boxing, we are converting a value type into an object type, system.object, or to an interface type that is implemented by the value type. Because remember, an interface, when we inherit from an interface, we must provide an implementation for that. So we are therefore saying that the value type implements this interface, and then unboxing is the very opposite of boxing. Then I think it is very it will be, of course, quite plain if we try to explain this using a code. So what I'm going to do, first of all, I'm not going to create a class. I'm just going to come to this class that we have there, which is program.cs. And then when I'm there, what I'm going to do, I'm going to have a struct which is a value type, and I'm going to call this my struct. So this will be my struct there, and it is very, very important that we understand that the struct is declared much like a class, because remember, when you declare a class, you will have maybe, for example, public class, and then you will give it a name, and then you don't have any constructors, or you don't have this is what we are speaking about. So we don't have those brackets that accepts an argument, so it looks a little bit much more similar like a class, but just that in a class we can use the term public and so on. And even here, as you can see, there is no problem with that. So we can have a public struct, which I call my struct, but because I am working on the same class here, therefore I don't have to use the access modifier there. So a struct is a value type. Very, very important that we do that. And then let me go and declare a variable which will be public. It will be of type int, and I will call this a value, and I'm not going to assign it a value for now. So they say you can box a struct of this type by placing it inside an object type variable. So this is very, very important. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to try and box this. I'm going to box my value type into an object type using the system.object, which is the base or the parent from which all classes are implemented, or where all the classes inherit from. Right, from there, what I'm going to do, I'm going to instantiate my struct. So I'm going to say my struct, as you can see, I said it is much like a class. So I'm going to say value type 1. and I'm going to assign it. Remember, the new keyword assigns memory for that, and this will be my struct. And remember, it accepts no parameters, so it is declared much like a class, but it is not a class, it is a struct. Very, very important. It is not a class, it is a struct. So I am creating an instance of my struct, and then I am reserving memory for that. Highly and highly important. And then we can continue in that, and I can say val via the instance dot, and I know I have a member or a field there which is called val, and I'm going to assign it a value of 5. And when I press in here, one thing that I want you to see there is that it references to the member that is inside of my struct. So whatever value I make change in there, it will be changed in here also. So this is call by reference. As you can see that it points to the same memory location. And then be that as it may, now I want to box this value type into a reference type, into an object, and I know I'm going to do that using the system.object. So what you do, you say object, you will say object, and then where does this comes from? It comes from the system.object. Very, very important. And then I'm going to call this object my reference type, and I'm going to assign it a value of val type 1. And the question is do I need to cast in here? No. So a value type, I'm taking this value type and I'm storing that as an object called ref type. Very important. So let us read what they have to say here. They say here you create a new variable which is val type 1. That is exactly what we did. Of type my struct. Very, very, very important. It is of type my struct. I think we understand this because we dealt with object-oriented programming a lot in our code. So we understand exactly what is happening here. And then we assign a value to val member of this struct. That is true. We assigned a value to the member of my struct, and the value was 5. Highly and highly important that we understand that. Right. And then we said we assign a value to val member of this struct, and then box it into an object type variable ref type. So what was I doing here? This is called boxing. Right, I'm taking in a value type, and then I'm converting that value type into an object called ref type, and I'm storing that inside of this variable. And when it is stored inside here, it is stored as an object. So I am boxing a value type into a reference type, which becomes an object. Very, very important. And then look what is happening here. When we hover over here, it says, you see now, local variable object ref type. Highly and highly important that we try to understand that. So what I'm doing here is boxing. I am boxing a value type into a reference or an object type. Boxing. Right, let us continue in this. It is very, very important that we continue in this. And then we continue to read that the object created by boxing a variable in this way contains a reference to a copy. So what are we referring to? This ref type now, because it is now an object. So the object created, which we call the ref type, by boxing a variable in this way contains a reference to a copy of the value type. So the ref type contains a reference, an object of a value type. variable, not a reference to the original value type variable. Let us read that. The object created by boxing a variable in this way contains a reference to a copy of the value type variable, not a reference to the original value type variable. So which one is the original one? Which one is the original one? This one. This is the original value that I have. Value type variable. So the object that we created by boxing a variable in that way contains a reference to a copy of the value type variable, not a reference to the original value type variable. Okay? Right. How do we verify if this is true? How do we verify if this is true? Now, let us try to verify whether this is true or whether this is not. I think it is very important that we will try. Right, wonderful people, let us just try to continue in this. I am very sorry, I was just disturbed by something. Let me go back to my work and check how far we were. So we boxed in there based on all the explanations that I have provided for you. So one thing that we want to do in there, right, what I'm going to do is to try and override the value in here, this value of 5. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say val type 1 dot val is equals, let me change the value to 6, and then we will try to find out exactly what is going to transpire in there. Highly and highly important that we try to understand that. Now let me just recap what we said. We said that here you created a new variable val type 1 of type my struct, and you assign a value to val member of this struct, and then box it into an object type variable, which was the ref type. Okay, the object created by boxing a variable in this way contains a reference to a copy of a value type variable, not a reference to the original type variable, which is this one. This is the original type variable. All right, very very important that we understand that. Highly and highly important. Right, and when I hover over here, I want you to see something here. Val type 1 is pointed there, here, here, and there. And somebody would expect that when I overwrite that value as 6 there, then val here will have a value of 6. Somebody might expect that. But we are going to check whether this is the case or whether this is not the case. So what I'm doing in here, I'm saying val type 1 dot val equals 6. So I'm overriding the value there, and I'm saying that value is 6. Is it going to be overridden? That is the problem. That is the question. Is this called by reference or by value? And when I change the value there, does it change the original type variable? This is what we are very much interested on. Right, so I have my val type 1 dot val is equals to 6. And now I'm going to say my struct, very important. I'm going to say my struct, and I'm going to say val type 2. And now what is it I'm going to do now? I'm going to cast now. I'm going to say my struct, and then I am casting that to a ref type. So what am I doing there? What am I doing there? Now I have my struct ref type, and when you hover over here, it says ref type is not null here. And what is a ref type? It's an object. So what I'm doing there, I am casting ref type to an object now, and I'm storing that inside of val2. Very, very important, because my struct, remember, is a class. In fact, it is not a class. This is my struct. It is a struct which I have given it a name, my struct. So in other words, in here I'm having a value, and in here I'm having an object. So I am casting an object into a value, and I'm storing that as a value inside of val type 2. I think it is important that we understand that. So this is a value, this is my struct, and it is a value, it is a value type, and ref in here, it's an object. So I am casting, I'm taking this object and I'm casting that to I am converting that to a struct, and then I'm storing that as my val type 2. So I have my object, I'm casting an object back into a value type and storing that inside of val2. So what I'm doing here, I am unboxing there. And remember, it is the opposite. In boxing, I am converting a value type into an object. Unboxing, I am converting an object back into a value type. Highly and highly important. So let me just have a console.writeLine, and then when I'm there, let me just get rid of that. Let me just say val type 2. All right, let me do this. So let me say val type 2 dot val, and then let us try just to say let me say val type 2 is equals to that, and see exactly what the value of val type 2 would be. Let us just try to check that, what that value would be. But what have we done here to val2? I am taking an object and I am unboxing that back into a value type, and I'm storing that as a value type in my variable called val type 2. So val type 2 contains a value type I have unboxed in here. Let us try. And now what will be the value now? This is very, very important that we understand this. What is the value that is inside of my object? Remember what I said. I took val type 1 and I stored that inside of an object ref type. So in other words, the ref type contains an object of value 5. So when I print the value of val type 2, val type 2 will have a value that is unboxed from an object into a value type, and the value would be 5. So I expect to have a value of 5 as a printout there. This is something that I am expecting in there. I am expecting that. And let us check whether things are the way in which we have said. Yes, the value of val2 it's equals to 5. Right. So nothing is new in there. Nothing is new. We understand what is happening there. Now let us read something. When you assign a reference type to an object, however, you get a different behavior. When you assign a reference type to an object, However, you get a different behavior. You can see this by changing my struct into a class. Right. Now, what have we seen in here? We have saw, okay, let me come here. Let me copy this and paste. Now, I want to show you something. Let's now output the value of val type 1. Let us try just to have that output and see what the value would be. Now in here, the value of val type 1, it's 5. Val type 1 dot value is equals to 5. So what am I doing there? I am having my struct. I am creating an object of that, or a local variable. Let's not say an object, a local variable, because it is a value type. So I'm creating a local variable of a value type, and I am reserving memory for that. And then via this variable val dot value, because my struct contains a public int which is called val, and I'm assigning val a value of 5. And then I am taking a value type, I am boxing that into an object type which I call ref type. Right, so when I say in here val type 1 dot value is equals to 6, let's see whether when we print that out we will have a value of 5 or a value of 6, to see whether they are pointing to the same memory location or to different memory locations. Let us try to investigate that. Now look what the value is now. The value of val type 1 is equals to 6. Why? Because they point to the same memory location. Whatever you change in val type 1 dot val, you are in essence changing the original type variable. But that was not the case in here. That was not the case. Let me show you that. That was not the case in here. That was not the case. Why was it not the case? Because val type 1 and val type 2 are pointing to two different memory locations. And how do we know that? Right, let us check. Remember, in here, I am having my struct, and now it's a val type 2 now. And this is equals to my struct ref. I am unboxing an object back into a value type, and I'm storing that as a value type val type 2. Now, let us check here. We have val type 1 dot val, which is 5, and then I'm taking that val type 1, which is a value type, and I am converting that into a reference type, an object. So val 1 is now inside of, it's now converted to an object, and the value there is 5. Very, very important. Now in here, I'm not making changes to the ref type. I am making changes to the original memory location where val type 1 dot val is located, which is 6. So when you say val type 2 is equals to my struct, and then you are taking the ref, what is the value of ref there? Very, very important. What will be the value of the ref there? The value of ref, let us run this and check something. Let me show you what I'm saying there. The value of ref in here has a value of 5. It has a value of 5 because that is what is inside val type 1. So you are taking the value in there because this is reference. Remember, this is called by reference. This is an object, and the object will reference to the same memory location. So when you come here and you say the value of val type 1 dot val is 6, this val points to a different memory location than that one. So when you print out the value of type 2, it will say that value there, it's not 6 but 5. Very, very important that we understand that. So the value of type 2 will be 5. Why? Because remember, this is an object, and call by reference points to the same memory location. And what is the value in that memory location there? The value is 5. And this one, it's a different memory location because it is not an object, it is a value type. So it will not print 6 because it points to a different memory location. It will print 5 because they are both objects. It references to the same memory location. So what you have in val type 2 is in actual fact an object that references to a value of 5. I don't know whether I have explained that correctly, but that is how I understand the things are happening in here. This is how I understand things. All right, should we continue in here? Yes, they said you can also box value types into interface types. So